Good evening, everyone. I'm Darrell Evans, the city's public safety manager. I'm calling this meeting to order here this evening for the Community Safety Committee meeting. As mentioned earlier, we don't have a chair or a vice chair, so that will be our first order of business once we go through the agenda here. But the very first order of business here is a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business is the reorganization of the Community Safety Committee. With that, I will open the floor for nominations for chair. Do you have any nominations?
I nominate Sebastian.
Do we have any other nominations for chair? We will close the nominations and do a roll call. Committee Member Ballantine? Yes. Committee Member De Leon? Committee Member Gonzalez?
Yes.
Committee Member Hom? Absent. Committee Member Kim? Committee Member Nam? Committee Member Rosario?
Here.
And would that be a yes for the nomination? For
Sebastian.
chair?
Yes.
Yes. Committee Member Tan?
Yes.
Committee Member Vora?
Yes.
Committee Member Wilson?
Yes.
Congratulations, Sebastian, for being nominated the chair.
So at this time, we'll be making nominations for the vice chair position. It's a vacancy. Is there any nominations on the floor? I would like to make a nomination and nominate Member Wilson for vice chair. Any other members, would you like to make a nomination at this point?
Sorry, do we have a second for the nomination of vice chair for Ms. Wilson?
I can second.
Thank you.
Any other nominations at this point?
With that, we will close nominations and we will conduct a roll call here. Committee Member Ballantine?
Yes.
Committee Member De Leon?
Yes.
Committee Member Gonzalez?
Yes.
Committee Member Rosario?
Yes.
Committee Member Tan?
Yes.
Committee Member Vora?
Yes.
Committee Member Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
Okay, at this moment, we're going to be moving on to item agenda number 5, public comment and suggestions. Seems that we received one written correspondence. Do we have any speaker cards or any members of the public that would like to speak?
Is there any members of the public who would like to speak?
There's some cards.
In the past few weeks alone, we've had reports of a motorcycle parked in a residential area without a plate or explanation. Just today, a white vehicle flipped over after doing donuts on Shoemaker. Reports of people ringing doorbells, attempting to enter homes in the early morning, and just a growing number of residents sharing security footage, voicing safety concerns, and questioning whether the city's listening. Residents sometimes say, why do we keep electing the same people when public safety keeps getting worse? Others are telling their neighbors to arm themselves, install reinforced security film, and buy guard dogs. Right now, I believe that confidence in the public safety is eroding. When people feel they need to protect themselves because they no longer feel the system will, it's not a healthy situation. It's a breakdown of civic trust. I'm just asking the committee to consider action in the following areas. Launch a voluntary neighborhood camera network, not surveillance overreach, but a privacy-conscious opt-in system where residents and businesses can share footage with law enforcement during active investigations. It worked in cities like Long Beach, and we could probably do it better here. Increase sheriff visibility in target zones. We need more drive-bys. Let's invest in on-foot patrols in neighborhoods where these incidents keep recurring, such as Artesia Shoemaker, Liberty Park area, and the South Street corridors. We need a Cerritos safety hub online. I mean, some of the Facebook groups are good, but I don't think it's enough to track crime, report suspicious activity, and connect with law enforcement in real time. We need to expand on response capacity for animal and nuisance report. There's so many animal nuisance reports, both on Nextdoor, on Neighborhood Watch Facebook group. From loose pets to injured wildlife and unreported trespassing, we need faster follow-up and clearly protocols for nonviolent safety concerns that still matter deeply to residents. And we might need, to host monthly public safety roundtables, not just reports and briefings, but real conversation. I just believe Cerritos is worth fighting for. That's why I'm here. That's why I took up getting involved in community safety. I think we can get ahead of the problems if we just take the voices of our residents seriously. Thank you.
Any other members would like to make a comment? From the public, I'm sorry. Okay, at this point, being said nobody is here, we're going to go ahead and close public comments and move on to agenda item number 6, the consent calendar. We have the approval of the minutes from Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may just intervene here for a couple points of order. I just want to, for the record, to show that Committee Member Hom, Committee Member Kim, and Committee Member Nam are present here now. And so that's worth noting. Additionally, I'd also like to let you know for public comments that prior to this meeting, we received one written correspondence submitted by the deadline listed in the agenda. The correspondence has been distributed to the commission or committee members. The written correspondence has been entered into the official record and is available upon request to the office of the city clerk during regular business hours. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Going back to item agenda number 6, the approval of the minutes from Tuesday, March 18th.
Sir, I have an update for you. Prior to this meeting, it was brought up by one of our committee members that there are some errors in that report. And so with that, I would recommend that you pull that agenda item and that we will put that on the next calendar once we correct those minor administrative errors in that report.
Okay. Would we need a motion for that to itemize it for the next meeting?
That would be appropriate, yes.
Okay. Can we make a motion?
I move the table to the next meeting.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay. So there's a motion to pass. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye. Aye.
noes? Abstentions? Okay, so we're gonna be moving this to the next meeting. The motion passes. Moving on to item agenda number 7, new and old business. 7A, we agenda report. I'll be passing it on to Mr. Public Safety Manager Darrell Evans and Captain Strong.
Thanks, sir. I will call upon Captain Drew Strong here, present that material for you. Captain Strong.
Thank you, Daryl. If we can get the next slide, it'll be the breakdown of Part 1 crimes by year. If you look at the top portion, it's LSD department-wide. So you can see that the crime trends, and below that is Cerritos Station. When you look at the crime trends, they're pretty much, they almost mirror each other as far as county-wide, and Cerritos goes. The dips are where they are at in crime when the Part 1 crimes are lower, and they're higher, obviously, when they're higher, and they kind of reflect each other. That just gives you a broad perspective of what's going on through the county and the city. If we can go to the next slide. On this particular slide, I'm going to kind of go through the violent crime portion fairly quick. When it comes to the homicide, rape, robberies, aggravated assaults, we're down on most of those categories. The homicides that we have the suspects in custody for those particular crimes. We're down 27.66% in overall violent crime through the city. So that is that's a good direction, one that we want to continue in. When we look at the next portion of the stat sheet, you look at property crime, and obviously one of our biggest concern areas is residential burglaries. As you can see, year to date, we're down 5.71%. That is important. However, the area that I want to focus on a little bit more is from November 5th to current. So on November 5th of 2024, we implemented a whole bunch of new programs throughout the city to reduce residential burglaries. When I look at those statistics from November 5th, 2024 to May 20th, 2025, and I compare those dates and statistics of residential burglaries to November 5th, 2023 through May 20th, 2024, which was the same period of time a year before, we're actually down 10.2% in residential burglaries. So that means 1 out of every 10 houses are not being hit. Is that good enough? No, but it is a step in the right direction. So thanks to you guys, citizens that are walking around your neighborhoods, being vigilant. Thanks to the city for providing all the resources to help us with this, and the sheriff's deputies that are the boots on the ground. We've been able to move in the right direction, so hopefully we can keep doing that. Moving down, thefts, larcenies over $950, which is grand theft. Those have risen. A lot of those are from our retail stores. We stay in constant contact with the management over at the Los Cerritos Mall and the town center. We're always trying to mitigate those issues. And then arsons have not changed. Grand theft autos are down over 47%, which I don't know if a lot of you remember, but a couple of years ago, those were up almost, I think, 150% or higher. So we've really driven those down, which I'm happy about. If we can move to the next slide, please, sir. Now, when I talk about the residential burglaries, I'm going to go over just this graph is just to give you an idea of what the long-term 15-year perspective on residential burglaries are. Obviously, we just spoke about where we're at since we've implemented these programs, so we're heading in the right direction with that. But since the pandemic, they have been on the increase. We're looking to change the direction of that since we implemented these new programs. Next slide. As you can see, here is a slide depicting January, February, March, and April, where we're at with residential burglaries. We are headed in the right direction right now. Hopefully, we can keep the momentum going. And this is positive news. When I look at this slide, it makes me happy. But we obviously can't put our guard down. We got to keep working forward to keep it going this way. So that's going to be dependent on all of us, including the sheriff's department, citizens, and just doing our part to help out. If we go to the next one. So the next slide, you can see that most of the burglaries occur on days. However, don't put your guard down at night. There's also been 22 at night. I think that's around 40%. Roughly 40% of our total burglaries. So they do hit locations at night too. Please, remember some of the key components that we say to protect your homes. We've been over this before. Most people know, but just continue to exercise it. If you see a neighbor that's not doing that, please remind them to do that as well. Sometimes, we think, oh, our house looks fine, so we should be good. But we want our neighbor's house to get hit too if they're not paying attention or they haven't gone over the material like we have. Just try and remind them to do so as well. Let's see if we go to the next slide. Notable arrest. So if take a look at these pictures on the left-hand side, you have the casing for some copper wire. On the right, you have a Sawzall, a methamphetamine pipe, and some methamphetamine. So deputies went to Los Coyotes Creek and the 91 freeway under the underpass over there. They contacted an individual who, at the time when they contacted him, was utilizing methamphetamine. And when they performed a search of his dwelling over there, they recovered the housing for the copper wire, the Sawzall that's commonly used to steal catalytic converters. So this individual was taken into custody. But if you guys are familiar, we've had multiple instances where copper wire has been stolen throughout the city. So we are apprehending these guys. We did get a filing on this particular case. We're going to remain vigilant, but copper wires have been an issue as well as residential burglaries. So if you guys see anything suspicious, call us. If you see somebody, commonly these guys are digging around lighting fixtures and things like that to unearth them and get to the wire. If you see somebody, acting funny around them, give us a call. We'll come check it out. Doesn't mean we're going to go arrest them immediately if they're not doing anything, but we can always contact them and just say, hey, what are you doing? What's going on over here? That way, in case they are doing that, we can further investigate. If they're not, if they're just hanging out over there, we can either shoo them away or contact them. I'll get to the question just in a second, ma'am. Hold on one second, please. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, that concludes my portion of it. If you guys have any questions for me before I turn it over to the traffic report for Alvin. Yes, Karen.
What about cable boxes?
I haven't had too many reports off the top of my head that I can think of the cable boxes.
Yeah, they were ripping off the cable boxes and pulling wires.
I haven't seen too many of those. I've seen a lot from light fixtures, from some telephone poles that they've ripped down. But I'll take a look into that and see if we have any reports regarding.
Yeah, they did too over near Stowers and Rose.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a look and see where that's at with the Detective Bureau. Obviously, every single crime that occurs in the city, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll take a look into that for you and get back to you on that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So what do we do about, or how do residents report the growing transient populations on the on-ramps? I see encampments growing, especially on the Bloomfield entrance to the 91. And I actually live along the 91, and at night my dog barks because people are walking back and forth on the freeway. How do we, is that a sheriff thing or a Caltrans?
So we work collaboratively with Caltrans on those the freeway areas where it's their jurisdiction. We just had a cleanup recently by I forget off the top of my head what the intersection was, but just if you shoot us an email or let us know, we'll go over there and check it out. We work with Clarence as well with the city, and we can go over there and see what they've got going on, see if they need any assistance. Obviously, with the homeless, our first approach is to aid, to find them housing, to help aid them. And then after that, we can take other measures to follow if they're breaking the law. So first is always humanitarian. We always try and take a humanitarian approach to help them find housing. And then we work from that perspective. So if there's an issue with that, go ahead and give us a call, let us know, and we can go ahead and investigate it. But we are familiar with most of where they hang out. It's kind of a cat and mouse thing. We shoo them away for a while, then they come back. But we'd be happy to look into that.
If I could just add that onto that from a city perspective, as Captain Strong mentioned, the city does have a homeless outreach program, if you would. So we're aware of it, and they are transitory. That's called them transients. And so we do not allow the encampments to stay and grow, but there are protocols. We have posted online a protocol that we follow, and the type of reaction and the type of time period that's required. We use that based on some case law. That's to keep the city from being a part of a federal consent decree. So typically, as Captain Strong spoke about, unless it's on private property, you don't have to wait at all. That could be shopping centers, that can be anything. We do have the majority of our encampments either in the riverbeds, which is the flood control district, but we work with them as well. Or we'll have them on MTA Metro property that we work with them as well. Or we'll have them on the railroad spurs. I've rarely seen any encampments or transients living inside the residential tracts of some areas. Most of it you're going to find in the commercial districts and or those areas we talked about. Within the commercial districts, that falls within the city, that's easy to deal with. Unless it's emergent, as Captain mentioned, our first move is humanitarian outreach. And if they deny all those services, then we'll go ahead and enforce whatever laws are available. Up until recently, when the United States Supreme Court intervened, there wasn't much we could do about it when they're in camping in public space. But now there's limitations on that. And depending on what we find, like I said, sometimes there's pregnant females, animals that are being abused or taken care of, or whole families, So each one is handled individually, but we do address it. So hopefully that answers your question. If there's anything else, I'd be happy to answer it.
Can I ask you something? So when you find a transient that's staying on the street or living over there, what is the procedure? Where do you move them, or do you just go and visit them and tell them they're not supposed to be here? What is exactly that gets done?
Yes, so thanks for the question. The city of Cerritos, we don't have any homeless or transient facilities. We rely on the county services. And so again, outreach, we'll look at medical, if there's a place, we'll offer them. But if they don't, then it becomes a question is, are they committing any violations? Sometimes they do. For example, it's a vehicle code violation to solicit any type of funds or money within 500 feet of a freeway off-ramp. And that's so you don't back the traffic coming on or going off the freeway. So you could be cited. Typically, you might see someone by South Street, but they're subject to citation, and we do issue citations for that. You can have motorhomes up on the commercial areas. We cite them for overnight parking until the fines are such we can justify towing those vehicles. If they release gray water, there's environmental laws that if you dump anything other than water into a sewer system that drains out to the ocean, it's a $3,000 fine inside a residential area, and it's a $10,000 fine inside a commercial district. And that's to keep people from pouring oil and solvents and anything else. So anything in those commercial district areas where people are using the sewer system to dump raw sewage or any gray water or anything, they're subject to a $10,000 fine. And so, we use that tool as well. But yes, unless they are violating the law in some way, it's not illegal to be homeless.
What about if you get an alarm on your camera and you go outside and they're looking in your dining room window and then sitting down on your private property? What do you do then?
Well, you can call the sheriffs for that. First of all, you probably wouldn't know if they're transient or someone, meaning you harm if they are on your property late at night looking in your window. Either way, I'd call the sheriffs. But that would be trespassing because they're on your property.
I did call the sheriff, but he was walking when they got there.
All right, we'll move on to oh yeah.
Captain, I have a question. Going back to the property crime, can you update us a little bit on what's happening with the drone program? And was that involved in solving anything or catching anybody this time?
In short, no, it's not been implemented yet. But the good news is the deputies are at training today and tomorrow for Special Enforcement Bureau to be certified to operate the drones in the city. Once they're completed with that course, I have a memo that I've sent to Special Enforcement Bureau to see if they will sign off on us launching drones in the city. And at that point, if they sign off on that, then we are good to launch our drones in the city.
Great, thank you.
So my hope is sooner than later. I mean, in a perfect world, the deputies will be done with the training at the end of the day tomorrow, and I'll have the memo back at the end of the day tomorrow, but I will keep you guys updated.
Great, thank you, Captain.
Just to add to that, the city has purchased the drones and all the associated equipment to operate those drones. So we're ready to go.
All right, Alvin, you ready, sir?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deputy Alvin Tompkins. I'm presenting the traffic report for 2025 between January to March. Total collisions, we have 143. Okay, 117 will be non-injuries, and injury collisions are 26, which is a decrease in 23.5% this year since of last year. Hazard citations, or total citations we've been issued is 892, where we're issuing 626 hazard citations and non-hazardous citations of 266. We have an increase of 99.4% on hazardous citation, which includes like red light violations, failing to stop on stop signs. Those are hazardous citation. Non-hazardous, more like tinted windows, unlicensed, no, not unlicensed, but more of like no possession of insurance or license while operating a vehicle itself. Primary cause factors as of March of this year is unsafe turn, and we also have secondary collision factor of excessive speed. Now, when you say excessive speed, it doesn't necessarily mean they're speeding over the speed limit. Sometimes we define excessive speed as distracted driver. While you're operating your electronic device, you're not paying attention to the drive while you're driving. You're not focusing on directly in front. Those are also excessive speed violations. Okay. Top 3 locations where majority of judges would rank: one would be 183rd and Carmenita, second would be Artesia and Shoemaker, and then last would be Bloomfield and Del Amo.
Hey, Alvin, is there any way you can tell them a little bit about what you do in your assignment for commercial enforcement? So, if those of you who don't know, Alvin is the commercial enforcement deputy. So,
Yes.
the folks that were sick and tired of the big rigs driving through their areas, well, you can thank him for mitigating that problem.
Yes, so yes, I am a commercial enforcement deputy. I mostly focus a lot of our closest to our industrial area because that's where a majority of they're coming from. A lot of the drivers I contacted, they are arriving from out of state or from out of country, which they're not familiar with our area. Okay, as mostly as a commercial truck driver, they focus on using their GPS, which mostly is car apps like Google Maps or Apple Maps, if you guys are aware of it. And 99% of the excuse I get is like, oh, well, my GPS is telling me to go here. Well, sorry, the signs are right there. They're posted on every intersection of the line. It says no commercial truck routes. I even provide them for every contact with the drivers. I even provide them resources like our maps that we provide online, and also DOT, which is Department of Transportation, which is Caltrans. They also provide links on their website, which they provide also maps and directions of travel on streets that are provided for truck routes for a lot of them. And I kind of explain to a lot of them on that too. So they should wear. I even contact to a lot of the businesses within the local area in the Cerritos, and provide them maps. I contact them, or give them my business card so they know who to contact in case they have any questions about trucking, where they should be traveling, how to get to all the time. Other factors in it, besides just the truck routes, I also look at their logbooks. They're required to have logbooks on, especially if they're traveling over 170 air mile or 150 air miles, which is equivalently to 170 miles. So if they're coming in from Fresno, Sacramento area, they're required to have electronic logbooks. Dictates hours of time that they're sleeping. They can only operate drive time of 11 hours total for the day. 14 hours total of on-duty time. On-duty time can consist of, hey, while they're dropping off their load, they're taking their paperwork inside, they're helping, assisting, unloading the products from inside their trailer into the store. That's on-duty time. So that totality, all that. Now, for the purpose of having them having these log time is because, as you can see on the freeway, you've seen it on the news, they fall asleep while they're operating their vehicle. They're not getting enough sleep. Okay, they're crashing their vehicles, causing a lot of damages with not just property, but also people's lives while they're operating. You got 80,000 pounds of products, especially on the trailer. You got 80,000, and they're colliding with 6,000-pound vehicle itself. So you can see why it's important to enforce a lot, especially for their hours of time of service. Sometimes they even, when I contact them, well, I don't have my logbook. Well, why don't you? Those are expensive fines for them. And then plus what it is, it adds points onto their license. Now, the more points they add up, it takes away their Class A and they can't work. You see? So that's the whole point of enforcing a lot of it with them. Now, besides all that, there's also weight restrictions to search axles, total weight to the operating weight. Even sometimes they they have they're supposed to have license to operate certain amount of weight, or they pay registration to the DMV to operate. Hey, I need to operate within 80,000 pounds. Well, I'm running your DMV registration. It doesn't indicate that you guys have paid any type of tax or to operate within this weight. So that's a violation itself also, which is another expensive fine for them too. I know the funny ones I've been getting were we've had a lot of construction going on or nearby within our cities. We have dump trucks with aggregate falls like dirt, trash, and also they're supposed to cover it up, right? We see it on the freeway. When you're driving by a lot of trucks, you see pebbles that crack your window. That's a pet peeve of mine because I've had them twice already doing that same thing. So I try to catch those guys too, make sure that, hey, they're within the weight restriction and that they're covering their load prior before leaving the streets and onto the freeway itself. I mean, I can go on. There's so much more restrictions on there.
Thanks, Alvin. That was perfect. He's actually a perfect example of how when the citizens, bring something to the attention of the city and the sheriff's department work collectively together, we can resolve some issues. And he's absolutely done a phenomenal job of doing that. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Mark Smith here for Community Safety Officer for Neighborhood Watch.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm happy to report that the Neighborhood Watch program is doing very well, the joint effort between Neighborhood Watch and the Sheriff's Department. Lots of meetings. I've had 8 this year already. I had 3 in one day last month. So people are out there being involved. They're very well attended. They're in the 30 plus, which is amazing compared to last year. So everyone's involved. And Neighborhood Watch does not work without the citizens and the cooperation between the Sheriff's Department, the city, and you guys. So just, keep the word out there. Along that lines, though, summer's coming. Vacations are coming. We know it's an uptick. So put out there the vacation checks. You can get it at safercerritos.org 5 days in advance. You can do it online. If you're within that 5 working days, just call Community Safety and we'll fill the form out for you. And then our volunteers will randomly check. And we know the program works. As far as I know, I don't know of any house that's been burglarized while they've been doing it. And they're finding doors and windows all the time open because of the people that are watching your houses. So, make sure that we're doing that. One of the other things is everybody's following along with doing what they need to, locking doors and windows, cameras, etc. But what we're starting to stress now is just because you have it locked down doesn't mean your neighbors are. And we don't expect, to police the whole neighborhood. But even if you just look to one side or the other and make sure everybody has is doing their part. Because, if the neighbor next to you has no light at night, which I notice when I'm out there, the few times I am at night, there's a lot of houses without lights, believe it or not. And even we know light, this stops burglars. They do not like light. And, I know a major contention at meetings is solicitors. So just know we don't allow them. So call them in when you're there. And, we'll do our best to get out there. Obviously, it's not a priority call for the Sheriff's Department, but they will go. So just know they go to all their calls. When you guys call, they're going. And I think that's about it for now.
Karen, go ahead, Karen. You had a question?
We know that the solicitors are not a priority, but when the solicitors start getting argumentative, how does that raise the priority? Does it?
Certainly, if a solicitor comes to first of all, if a solicitor comes to your house and they don't have, permit or license to solicit in the city, give us a call. We'll come check it out and, either cite them or whatever we need to do. If they come to your house and get argumentative, give us a call on that particular instance as well. If they're threatening you, please indicate that when you make the phone call to the Sheriff's Department, if they're threatening you, how they're threatening you, if they have a weapon and so forth and so on, whatever pertinent information that you can provide. And dispatch should and will extract the necessary information from you as well. But if not prompted, try to remember, do they have a weapon on them? What's the description, right? Remember, top down. hair color, eyes, all that. But we're going to come out for those calls. And I think, when he says it's not a priority, he doesn't mean it in the fact that it's not a priority, like it's not important. It's when he says prioritize, he's referring to, in comparison to a traffic collision where the vehicle's upside down, somebody that's been stabbed, somebody that's been shot, somebody's house that's being actively broken into right now. That doesn't mean it's not a priority, but on the hierarchy of life and death, it's not going to be that high compared to those particular calls, but it's still a priority call to us. We prioritize the calls accordingly. So it's an important call to us. We want you to be in your house, comfortable, without people banging on your door, without arguing with you, right? So when you call, like you said, we're going to come out there and check it out. At minimum, we're going to check it out and ask them, what are you doing here? Do you have a license to sell stuff within the city? And if they don't, then, either we'll tell them to leave or we can cite them as well. So feel free to call us on that. In fact, and on a different term, somebody had mentioned somebody by the freeway, I think, earlier. Yeah, we cited a gentleman today by the freeway off-ramp over there by South Street. So, if that's something that you see and they're, in the freeway area right there, give us a call. If it's something that you think looks suspicious or that they're breaking the law, give us a call. We'll come check it out. That's what we get paid to do.
I'm going back to the handout that talks about the traffic. And on page 2, it's an area where it says primary collision factors. And under the 21453A, it says that one of the primary collision factors is red signal failure to stop. And then when I go over to page 3, I look at the same one, which are the actual violations that were given was 21453A. It says 6. Both those numbers are the same as 6. So am I to understand that the only people who are cited for failure to yield on a red is the people who have an accident?
You have to go back to the page. Which page are you referring to, Mike? Sorry, there's quite
It
a
was
few.
page 2 and page 6 and page 3.
So you're looking at page 2.
Okay, so that's what it means, a primary
Oh, I see what you're saying.
collision factor is that when we write it on the report itself, we have to determine the cause of the collision. And this is what the report is based off on. We will write the violation of 21453.
Right.
Yeah, and then if the deputy was trained, then yeah, if they deem that they have enough evidence to determine that this person violated that collision, then they will be cited, yes. Okay, now that's different statistics as opposed to while we were out there driving, monitoring the traffic lights and citing issues for 2153 violation rate with that's separate from the collision itself. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Okay, so we're talking that there would be a
This
total,
one, yeah,
total
this-
of 12 then?
Yeah.
So we would look at that.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's what the question I had.
Okay.
Thanks, Alvin.
I guess since we're talking about traffic, has there been any talk about the timing of some of the lights, especially on coming out of the town center on Bloomfield and Artesia? I know sometimes people get a lot of cars run through that area, and then people get stuck there because of the timing of the lights.
So that would be a city call on that.
Thank you for the question. Yes, the timing behind the lights is established by volume and monitored, but that would be something for our public works. So if you see a problem, then let us know, and then we'll notify the public works, and then go out there and monitor it, make sure it's cycling correctly. I mean, it is a mechanical device, so every once in a while something might occur, but generally those are set. Some roads have sensors in them where they will detect that the car will not stop in time, and they'll hold that yellow light a little longer because the car is coming through the intersection to avoid the traffic collision. But they are monitored, and like any mechanical thing, they're subject to failure. If you have any issue or any questions, just let us know, and then we'll notify Public Works, and then they can go out there and verify that it's functioning correctly.
Any other questions or comments from my fellow members?
How I know that there was some discussion over the use of Southwest Patrol and CSO combination. Can you give us an update as to what's happening with the
I'd be happy to if we could just hold that question until we go through this presentation. And then we'll open it up and answer any questions about any topic you'd like to discuss. Any questions about the material presented so far? Any other questions? No. We just have a couple more slides for you, and just going to speak real quickly on emergency preparation. You know, that includes the welfare, not only physically, but your financial welfare and everything else. If you're not aware, there's criminals out there now who are actually assaulting mail carriers just for their mailbox key. And so what's happening is Neighborhood Watch is doing so well, you don't have people just walking down the streets and opening up individual mailboxes. They've gotten smarter, and now they either buy them on the internet from somebody who stole them. Typically, you could buy one of these keys for, which is illegal, by the way, but it would be $1,500 or $2,000 to acquire one of these. And they're just going to the mailbox, the whole box itself, and taking all the material inside the mailbox. And then they're looking for checks or your driver's license or anything else that they can get to duplicate your identity and then run out and apply for credit card applications and those sort of things. So I would highly recommend migrating as much as possible of online stuff. I've talked to our detectives that do forgery fraud. So, hey, which is safer, online banking or the old school checks and everything? He said, by far, online banking, because it always creates a trail. Once you drop your check into the mail, there's no telling how many people actually touch that and where it goes. It's impossible to track it and see where it disappeared, or as opposed to electronic tracking. But be surprised how many people are still doing checks and getting things through the mail. But I would highly recommend that you mitigate that and minimize that as much as possible in survival. A couple quick things. We've had some power outages in the city lately. Just a reminder, summer's coming up, it gets hot, you get roaming blackouts, brownouts. You could have power surges. You could have all kinds of things that go on where you lose your power. So I would highly recommend that people prepare for that by having a spare generator at the house or rechargeable batteries and rechargeable lights. Some people are more susceptible to tripping, or your house is 2-story. You got to prepare for all of that. There are some lights that you just plug them in, and they don't come on unless you lose power. We'd recommend that. Also, I've lost power in my house here not too long ago, and ended up probably losing $300 worth of stuff in the refrigerator, freezer, and that's probably 1/3 the price of a nice generator. So you do that a couple times. You could have just went to the Home Depot or Lowe's or any other place and ordered a generator. So I now have a generator in my house, and if the power goes out for a period of time, first thing that gets plugged in is the refrigerator, freezer, so I don't lose one, food in case I need it, and two, having to throw out another $300 worth of stuff that's in the freezer. So just be prepared for power outages. They're more common than not now. Just real quick, for those who haven't done it, I know we talked about this last time. We have a new group here. Always want to have a supply of water at your house and food. Here's some pictures. The one on my left is the side of my house. I've got two 55-gallon drums there, 100 and some gallons of water just sitting there in case I need that. And most people have hot water heaters with 40 or 50 gallons in there as well. If you're going to be using water like that, in the center there, you will see a ceramic filtered water filter. So anytime you have an earthquake or anything like that, you're liable to get brown water coming up because it moves the sediment in the pipes and in the storage. So you'll turn it on, you'll think, hey, there's brown water here. I also have a supply of coffee filters in my house. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I have coffee filters, which is very wise to run any contaminated water through or brown water or anything. The coffee filters take out all of the larger debris, and then that way it keeps your actual water filter really clean and efficient and effective, so that when you use your water filter, it doesn't clog up with sand or soot or debris that's in the pipes or any other source. So definitely want to get that. So I always remind people, you always want to buy this stuff before the other 12 million people who live in Southern California need it too. Anytime there's a big event back east, you'll always see shortages of plywood or generators as everything gets shipped, to where the hurricanes or the tornadoes or the major events are. So there's only so much of it around. I highly recommend you do this stuff before the earth starts shaking and you actually. With With that, that's all I have for you. I'd be happy to open up to any questions about that or anything else.
Okay, as far as the post office, in the old days, they used to say it's a federal offense to tamper with mail and all that. Now, the question is, who enforces anything with the post office? Do we know of somebody in charge that's been doing anything? Because over the years, everybody knows, things get stolen at the post office all the time, and all they do is you never hear anybody caught doing anything. So do I talk to some federal agency and find out who's in charge, what he's done, what has he caught, what has he, has he been doing any job? What's his job?
Well, they do have postal inspectors, and ours is in this local area, is in the Artesia Post Office, right there on 183rd. That's their main office for the area, and we've contacted them before. But yes, the Postal Service does have investigators that look into those type of crimes.
Yes, Daryl, if you could give us an update as to what's happening with Southwest Patrol versus the CSO, or in combination?
Yes, thank you for the question. So obviously, impacting residential burglaries is a high priority of the city. City council, city manager put forth a lot of energy, effort, and funding toward abating residential burglaries. To that end, one of many things that they're doing, they had contracted with Southwest Patrol, 3 full-time officers, if you would, who patrol the area. We're looking at enhancing that program by migrating eventually to the city hiring community safety officers and supplanting the Southwest Patrol. Southwest Patrol does an excellent job. They are out there, but they do not investigate. They are observers and they call it in. The advantage to having community service officers or community safety officers are they're employees of the city, so we can regulate their schedule. They're also working with the Sheriff's Department. They go through backgrounds with the Sheriff's Department. When they're on patrol, they have a sheriff's radio. They have a MDC or mobile digital computer where they can receive calls, run license plates. They can be much more proactive. They also can take reports, so they minimize the response time, and they basically free up deputies so the deputies can be much more proactive in law enforcement. So they'll take reports for misdemeanors or non-workable crime, and that way you don't have to have the deputy sheriff do that. If you're not familiar with contracting, the contract price for deputy sheriff is $390-some thousand each. Of course, deputies don't make that, or we'd all be, deputy sheriffs right now. That is the price of the salary, the employee benefits, the price of the car, the radio, everything that goes on top of that. And supervisors, secretaries, it's all poured into the contract. Not to get too far down the contract, rabbit hole there, but the prices for contracting is established by the county's auditor controller, not the LA County Sheriff's Department. LA County Sheriff's Department operates cost neutral. They don't turn a profit, they don't take a loss. And so they figure out what the costs are, and that's when they come up with that. That's a long way of saying it's a real value to have community safety officers because they're, a fraction of that price. And for every report they take, that's not a deputy sheriff taking that report. The deputy sheriff's able to stay out in the field and be much more proactive and look for the criminals and write citations and prevent the hazardous traffic collisions. It's terrible to have your house broken into. It's very disappointing. But you can file, your insurance papers and go get the stuff that was stolen back. You'll have a newer version of it, unless it's, something that's deeply personal to you. But if you're broadside in the intersection, by a 6,000-pound vehicle, that could alter your life for the rest of your life. Burglary is going to disappoint you, but those traffic collisions put you in the hospital. And so that keeps the deputies free. That being said, we currently have 3 CSOs. We are in the process of hiring 2 more, so we will have 5. We just completed some interviews for CSOs, so we're in the process now. And we're hoping to have those in place here in the next several months.
Thank you, Daryl.
Any other questions? With that, Mr. Chair, we've concluded our reports and turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from my fellow members? Can we get a motion to file and receive the reports?
Motion to file.
Member Wilson, motion. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Member Leon, second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Moving on to item agenda number 8A. We have reports from committee staff liaison.
Just a couple additional comments. First of all, I'd like to welcome and thank all of the committee members here. We have some new committee members here, and thank you for your service and volunteering for this and being a liaison between the council and the community, both relaying the information that you hear from staff and providing information back to us. So we appreciate that open line of communication there. Additionally, I'd like to let you know and the public know that the city is working on hosting a public safety town hall meeting. That will be held on Wednesday, July 30th. We'll start at 6 p.m. So we're looking at between 6 and 7:30 p.m. And that will be held at the CPE, Cerritos Park East, July 30th, Wednesday. We're going to invite some vendors out there that deal with personal security and or residential security, some safety related stuff. We're going to have some demonstrations out there and some displays. We will be displaying the city's drone program. We will be inviting the Sheriff's Special Enforcement Bureau to bring their drones out. We'll also invite an executive from the LA County Sheriff's Department to speak not only on local activities, but regional activities, both crime-wise and what's going on within the LASD. And then the hour that precedes the meeting, where the vendors are out, we're looking at roasting some hot dogs and providing some snacks and food and drink while everybody enjoys the park and the presentation before we start the town hall meeting. So we hope that everybody will have an opportunity to attend that. And with that, that's all I have for you this evening.
So we have a question.
So if we're going to do it's a town hall, so we're going to have the safety committee meeting and the town hall.
We're looking at combining the two because they're so close to each other. We're working out the details now. And then we'll be working with City Communication Department to heavily advertise that. But you're absolutely right. There's no need to have a meeting and then 4 days later have the very similar meeting. So we'll be looking to combine the two and moving that meeting to July 30th.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Moving on to item 8B, reports from Community Safety Committee members. Mr. Ballantyne, Member Ballantyne?
I've got nothing.
Member De Leon? Member Hum?
Okay, I attended a coffee with the sheriffs a few days ago, and there was a couple of items that really stood in my mind. The first one, Captain Strong talked about the drowning at the regional park and how the news described and honored those that did the rescue. But to me, what we need to know is the parents of drowning victims they feel very guilty about it, but they shouldn't. When a kid, I've seen when a kid drowns, it happens within a minute, and the kids don't struggle, they don't cry, they don't splash. They just slowly sink into the water and drown. All it takes is for somebody to be on their cell phone, answering a phone, and their kid will drown, right in front of their faces. In my case, I watched my son, quote, drown, and he didn't struggle. He quietly paddled a little bit and kept sinking, and even the lifeguard next to me didn't even react. I ended up, picking him up and saving him. So to parents, they with the summer coming, make sure your kids are drown proofed, and because it happens very quickly and very quietly. And then the second thing that was mentioned a few years ago when my wife passed away, I I knew she couldn't be revived, and so I wasn't going to call 911. But it's recommended that you do. I thought the the rescue, the sheriff, the fire department, the ambulance couldn't. It's too late to save her. But when a death happens, the deputy comes there and helps you a lot. Okay, that's a service that the sheriff's department does. And what they do is they come, in my case, they stayed with me, made sure I was okay. And this is at 5 a.m. They actually called Rose Hills and got their people to come out and pick her up early in the morning. And so most people don't know that. And so it's something that the sheriff does do. And, a lot of people don't want to call 911 because they don't want to get charged for the ambulance or it's already too late. But just to let you know, it's a service that I appreciated, and most people don't know until it happens to them.
Thank you for sharing. Member Kim? No. Member Nam?
Yeah, sorry. I went to a EVOC training in April, and much respect to you law enforcement that are driving the vehicles. It was a good experience, and if anybody has the opportunity, I recommend you taking the chance to experience. We did a lot of the track racing, turning, and also went into the water and how to control the car because it will start to spin around. And yeah, it was a good experience. And also, I had a message from a resident in the Gar High School area. If possible, can somebody monitor the Artesia Boulevard and Alora?
Sure. Regarding what, ma'am?
All the vehicles that are waiting for their students to come out.
Okay.
They're even parked in the red zone, from what I understood. And so vehicles coming in and out are having trouble because they're just all along the red zone when the high school lets out Alora.
Sure. What we can do is we can pass that on to the motors deputies, and they can go over there and do some enforcement.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I can't reach the name tags. Remember Rosario?
Nothing.
Oh man, one more name tag. I'm sorry. Member 10?
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing. Okay. And member Nora? Member Vora? Apologize.
So my question is, would like to know if there's a schedule or a pattern where there is, officers patrol the neighborhoods, and do you rotate the patrolling? Because some areas I have been told there's not many patrol cars seen at all, and there's some areas that see them more often, and the areas that are closer to the freeway, easy entry, easy exit, do they get more patrolling because those are the areas that get hit much more? So is there a pattern, or is there is there a way that you're more proactive to stop people, and make them more safer?
So when it comes to the patrol cars, if they're not going to a call for service, they do perform patrol checks. Oftentimes they'll focus their patrol checks a lot of times on the areas that have been most recently affected by whatever the crimes may be, whether residential burglaries or sometimes at the shopping center, if there's been a lot of thefts, they'll go through the parking lot and see, if anything's going on in there. But as far as do we patrol some areas more than others? If crime's occurring there, you'll probably see us there more often than not. Do we say, hey, deputy, you have to go out to this spot right here? if you guys, ask for a patrol request, we can do that for you. If you can go to the station, we'll give you a form to fill out for a patrol request. If you want your particular area patrolled because of A, B, and C, you can submit that patrol request form, and then we'll go out there and check it out for you guys. If you say, hey, during these hours, I'm seeing suspicious people, over in this area, walk and don't walk, for example, then we can send that to the deputies in our briefings, and they can go out there and check those areas out. But do we tell the deputies, hey, you're going to patrol this area right here? Sometimes if there's crime, but as far as do we have preferential areas that we do? No, we don't. We don't prefer any area over another. We operate on crime statistics and data. That's our focus.
If I could just add to that, in addition to patrol cars, as mentioned earlier, we have Southwest Patrol that is out there also, driving around those areas. And we also utilize city staff to observe activities. Well, if they see something suspicious, we have our CSOs that are out there. We have our code enforcement folks that are out there who are driving these neighborhoods all the time. And we have our parking enforcement folks that are out there. So in addition to parking and code enforcement, they're also driving up and down the streets and looking for suspicious activity. We all work in the community safety section. We're right there in the sheriff's station. And what Captain Drew did mention is all these radio cars have GPS in them, and within the dispatch center, there's a large monitor, so he can tell where every radio car is any moment of the time by just looking on the map and seeing exactly where they are. Typically, you're going to dispatch cars that are closest there. So, if you got a lot of activity going on, you may not see a car because it's actually engaged in dealing with traffic collisions or writing reports or, dealing with homeless folks or, a myriad of calls for service. So they routinely drive up and down the streets when there's nothing else going on. Otherwise, they're engaged in activities. And then, like I said, it's layering. It's not only the deputies, but city staff is out there with a watchful eye. And then neighborhood watch, whenever they see something, call in. So it takes all of us collectively.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Wilson?
I have a few things. One of the residents was talking about, she sent me a message about the statues, and she asked, could our neighborhood watch in the areas of the statues make it a point to walk by the statues, keep an eye on them? I don't know. That's what, because they keep getting stolen. So we just thought, if our volunteers are out there and they're walking around or driving around, we could just bring it up at a meeting, I guess, and just ask the neighborhood watch to be more alert of our statues.
We would welcome and adopt a statue program. Yes, and you're absolutely right. We've had several of the city's very expensive bronze statues stolen. Electric hand tools make it very easy. They just come up there with a Sawzall battery pack and it's gone. And bronze is pretty soft. And unfortunately, they melted down. And last time I checked, it was like $2 a pound or something. So they're basically taking these tens of thousands of dollars worth of art and reducing it to $800 material. So any additional assistance and watchful eyes is always welcome.
Also, we had another question, trash truck hours. When are they supposed to start in the morning?
About for the regular trash trucks? Well, there's a map that's on the city's webpage that identifies, which day a week and which section it's going to be.
No, what time?
What time? 8 o'clock in the morning.
So our garbage trucks are not supposed to start before 8 on a weekday?
Well, no, in the residential tracks. I mean, when you're talking about the city at large, there's trash trucks out there, it's 6 o'clock in the morning picking up in the commercial districts.
In the commercial?
Yes.
So when they're going down the residential at 6:20 in the morning, it's too early?
That's too early because, we also do enforcement, right? Behind both the sweeper and the trash truck and anything that's interfering with them. But are you talking about for noise abatement? Or are you talking about just when do they show up? Or
when are they, but, when does the noise ordinance come in? I know businesses, we have to do it, like on the weekend, it's after 8, but on the weekday it was 7. So they were asking in the morning, what time are they allowed to
Generally,
start?
it's 7 o'clock where the noise abatement. Anything before that, there's specific, there's a municipal code for that that identifies the amount of decibels that's allowed. And we actually have a decibel meter that when people talk about excessive noise, one of our CSOs will go out there and actually monitor the sound and make sure it doesn't exceed it. If it's a problem, sometimes we do get complaints if you're some of these commercial districts, if you live near, without naming the stores, these large, box stores or people getting deliveries in the middle of the night and that sort of stuff. So we do investigate those. But the trash trucks, they're normally not out there before 7 in the residential tracks. But
So if they're there at 6:10, 6:20, it's too early.
it would be too early generally. And again, we come out there and look at the decibels. And then, of course, you weigh the need for having your trash removed, in a timely manner. We don't want them to just sit there either. So, again, wherever you live, let us know. I mean, if it's a problem, the bottom line is if it's a problem, we'll address it.
Okay,
But generally,
or
it's 7 in the
two more
morning.
things. All right, so we had a very well-attended neighborhood watch meeting, and Detective Sampson was there, and he spoke. And we did a play on how to identify when you call in, and you identify, how to identify to dispatch what the person's wearing, what they look like, and everything. And it was it was a good meeting, and I think they have a clear understanding, the residents there, on how to be able to accept the questions of dispatch and understand that dispatch is going to ask more questions, if they don't get the right answers, how to, to send our deputies out. Our deputies need to know where they're going and who they're going to and what they're looking for. So it was a good, well-attended meeting. And I had one more thing. Question for Captain. When are we having another civilian academy?
Well, I suppose we can put that together maybe over the summer. So
Hopefully.
we'll look into that for you. That'd be something that the SAO team would probably handle for us, but I can look into it for you. You guys enjoyed it?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We were talking about it at the coffee.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. We'll see what dates we can put together. It takes obviously a lot of resources to put
It
that together
does.
because
We were
it's
discussing that.
you visit Aero Bureau, you visit SEB, you visit all these different locations. We have a bunch of people that come do speeches for us.
the minutes.
Homicide, Special Victims Bureau. So just maybe give me a couple weeks and we'll look into that.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add, and I appreciate the captains doing that, but that's always a balance. There's limited resources, right? So we're really committed to driving down residential burglaries. The station's operating at a diminished level of staff, as with the entire sheriff's department. I think the captain shared with me earlier today, the LA County Sheriff's Department is down over 1,000 deputy positions. And so, anything that's really labor intensive and time intensive, we're going to look really careful at and see the value of that versus pulling the deputies off the street. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of resources that are needed for law enforcement. So we'll take a look. If we have a large group, we can do that. It's probably not likely to happen if there's just a small group, so that we keep the deputies on the street.
Yeah, the last group, we had it was a large group that was well attended. It was a resident that asked about it, so.
Sure, we'll have some more conversations about that and see
Okay.
what we can put together.
All right,
And just a final comment, all decisions ultimately lie with the city council and city manager, right? So they would make that decision. We'd present to them that we have a desire and, identify the size of the group and then see how they would like to allocate their resources.
thank you.
I think she asked about the trash trucks coming in. As a clarification, the trash trucks usually come in after 8. The only exception being when you have large item pickup, they start at 6 a.m. And if you hear them, that's just for, the sake that, they come in earlier. It's the large item pickup. And they're not so noisy.
Thank you for that clarification. And what we found with the trash trucks is very temporary. You know, they do their business and move on. Where we really have issues is parking lot sweepers, you know, right up adjacent to residential tracks and or people running forklifts, you know, loading, unloading freight and next to that's where the problem is because that's extended as opposed to just, you know, somebody passing through the neighborhood.
I just have two brief questions in regards to noise. What about construction in residential areas and gardeners? Is there a noise ordinance for them?
There is, that would be, there's a very specific noise ordinance for leaf blowers. And there is, again, decibels. It depends on where you live. There's certain sections. If you're up in the industrial area, you're allowed certain things. But generally, it's 7 in the morning. You know, they do change on the weekend, by the way. Sunday is later. But generally, work begins at 7 in the morning. There are some special circumstances that we get once in a while for construction, depending on the nature of the construction and where it's at. We do get waivers sometime from community development that says they've been granted permission to start earlier. Maybe it's in the hot summer where, you know, it's something they want to start earlier, you know, working with asphalt and stuff. It's just better to start earlier than it is to do it in high noon in the middle of the day, but that's pretty rare. But again, heavy construction on people's homes, that's not going to happen before 7 in the morning.
Okay. And then I have a second question in regards to daylighting. Is that just a parking citation, and is that being enforced already?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that.
In regards to daylighting, so I know you can't park, I think, 15 feet by the intersection, 20 feet. Okay, is that being enforced already with just a parking citation?
Yes, so you're referring to a new vehicle code that was adopted where it's an infraction to park within 20 feet of an intersection. And the purpose of that is to allow, you know, better view of the intersection. And so that is being enforced as well.
Okay. And one last comment, I'd just like to welcome all the new members to the Community Safety Committee. It's going to be a pleasure working with every one of you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:13 p.m. Thank you.